Car explodes at the U.S.-Canada border crossing, claiming 2 lives.
Authorities in both states activate their emergency responses, closing the checkpoint until further notice. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I am Ricky Mathay.
I am Nina Richie Alagao-Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. House Speaker Martin Romualdez denies the alleged impeachment plot against Vice President Sara Duterte. Justice Chief Crispin Remulla to inquire Philippines' stand on its ICC membership. North Korea restores their military measures on the border. The World Health Organization calls on Beijing to explain the recent spike of pneumonia cases in northern China. And K-pop group Blackpink receives honors from King Charles III. House Speaker Martin Romualdez has given insight into the matters regarding the alleged impeachment plot against Vice President Sara Duterte. Romualdez denies the allegation that he was the mastermind behind the motives to push the impeachment against Duterte. Attorney Harry Roque earlier claimed Romualdez allowed the anti-Duterte movement inside the House of Representatives. This is in a bid to remove the vice president as a possible contender for the 2028 presidential elections. Romualdez, however, dismissed the claim, saying that the said reports were falsified and he was not aware there was a filed resolution regarding the issue. The House Speaker expressed disrespect for Roque's opinion, citing that the attorney's claims were mere speculations.
Our good friend, former Secretary Harry Roque, must have thoughts that, he has got these ideas. We respect his thoughts and opinions, but they're not accurate. So I'll just put it at that, and there's nothing to it. A lot of speculation, but none of that is true.
Meanwhile, Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri defended Romualdez, claiming that there are no truth behind the said political agenda.
The Department of Transportation, or DOTR, has rejected the demand of several transport groups to terminate the government's Public Utility Vehicle, or PUV, modernization program. Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista emphasized during the Pilipinas conference in Makati City that the industry consolidation is non-negotiable. However, Secretary Bautista stated that the DOTR is open to considering the other demands put forth by the transport groups, such as the issuance of a 5-year franchise. The PUV modernization program requires drivers and operators to form cooperatives or corporations by the 31st of December. This allows them to access financial assistance and government subsidies, upgrade their vehicles to low carbon emission models, and ensure safer and more efficient units. The DOTR and the Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board are willing to engage in discussions with transport groups to address any concerns and resolve issues related to the program.
The Commission on Elections, or Comelec, has extended the deadline for the submission of bid documents for the 2025 automated polling system. Comelec Chairman George Garcia said that the Special Bids and Awards Committee moved the supposed November 28 deadline to December 12. This is to provide possible suppliers time to prepare their documents and submit them to the poll body. The poll added that the said postponement of deadlines will also provide the on-bank more time to resolve the disqualification petitions filed against Smartmatic.
The National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, has announced that an executive order aimed at streamlining the processing of requirements for infrastructure flagship projects is expected to be issued before the end of the year. This information was shared by NEDO Undersecretary Joseph Capuno during the Pilipinas Conference 2023 in Makati City. The executive order is intended to expedite the approval of projects that have already undergone review by the NEDA board and are part of the flagship projects. NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan had previously confirmed the proposed executive order earlier this year, which aims to facilitate the efficient processing of clearances, permits, and authorizations for the infrastructure projects.
The Philippines and the European Union are making significant progress in their scoping talks for a potential free trade agreement. According to EU Ambassador to the Philippines, Luc Veron, the two nations are on track to complete the negotiation by the end of the year. During the 2023 Pilipinas Conference in Makati, Ambassador Veron mentioned that EU President Ursula von der Leyen and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. have agreed to review different chapters that would be part of the free trade agreement. The European Union delegation in Manila has confirmed that at least 3 rounds of scoping talks have already taken place since the announcement of the free trade agreement discussions in September.
Philippine and Chinese lawmakers are set to discuss the code of conduct regarding the disputed territories in the South China Sea. House Speaker Martin Romualdez and Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri are joining the ongoing 3-day Asia-Pacific Parliamentary Forum at the Philippine International Convention Center, or PICC. According to Zubiri, the said gathering will help avoid any violence between escalating tensions in the West Philippine Sea. Zubiri disclosed that from the start of the forum, the two lawmakers have already talked with the Chinese delegations.
Ang importante dyan ay pakitaan natin sila ng diplomasya. Tayong host eh. So bilang host, kailangan we have to always present a welcoming attitude to all our guests. So hindi naman ako nahirapan. As a matter of fact, gusto ko nga silang kausapin, dinapitan ko sila, kinamayan ko sila, pinakita ko pa nga yung picture na kasama ko si Xi Jinping nung bumisita si Xi Jinping dito sa Pilipinas during the administration of President Duterte, para ipakita sa kanila na hindi naman kami masamang tao, Pilipinas hindi masamang tao.
Meanwhile, the Senate President confirmed that 10 out of 27 resolutions are ready to be discussed at the plenary deliberations. Zubiri added that Indonesia has a separate resolution supporting the implementation of the international laws, particularly the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. The House Speaker added that a resolution regarding the South China Sea Code of Conduct is set to be discussed at the plenary. Romualdez hoped that the delegates from the 19 nations were to formulate the resolution with consensus.
It's premature to suggest any particular position or what we will take. We will have an open mind, but obviously, as I've earlier outlined, that we will definitely be very, very much in the position of affirming our previous positions, as earlier stated. Our relations, especially these multilateral relations, are not fixated on one particular issue. In fact, we use this forum to explore other facets of our relations. We have many other facets of the relationship that we'd like to build upon. As the President says, let us not let one issue define the total relationship. We try to use this forum as an opportunity to look for common ground.
The 17 Filipino seafarers who were held hostage by Yemen's Houthi rebels are now safe, and there is hope for their eventual release as Israel and Hamas have agreed to a 4-day truce, which will begin on Thursday. As part of this truce, Israel and Hamas have also agreed to a prisoner swap, with 50 hostages being exchanged for 150 Palestinian prisoners. The Department of Foreign Affairs has expressed optimism about this ceasefire, as it could potentially lead to the prompt release of the 2 remaining Filipino hostages. Under the terms of the agreement, the hostages to be freed by Hamas are civilian women and children. The number of prisoners released may increase in the future stages of implementing the agreement. The 17 Filipino seafarers were among the 25 crew members of the cargo ship seized by the Houthis on the 19th of November.
Coming up, North Korea to deploy new weapons on the border. The newly minted truce allows Red Cross to visit remaining Gaza hostages. And Elon Musk's EV brand Tesla has her sights set on India. Stay tuned for more stories from around the globe when we come back.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart. We take great pride in how much we have grown and evolved over the years. And with growth comes transformation, intentional and focused in every way. Marking a new chapter, we have injected fresh energy into our brand with a vibrancy that equals our vision for today and tomorrow. We unify everything we stand for and our dedication to thinking forward and flourishing in how we empower both people and the planet. In a synergy of symbols, we demonstrate our commitment to providing reliable and sustainable energy, the passion to drive us to serve, the clarity of our purpose, and the harmony and growth we envision for the Filipino. Under this re-energized brand, we express our strength in our roots, our diversity, and sustainability. San Miguel Global Power, giving you the power to celebrate life.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Justice Chief Crispin Remulla has announced his plans to hold talks with Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin regarding the Philippines' membership in the International Criminal Court, or ICC. This is over discussions in the House Committee on the filed Resolution 1477, urging government agencies to extend their cooperation to the ICC's investigation into the Duterte administration's war on drugs.
Pero ang first question is, why will we work with the ICC now that we are no longer members of the ICC? Diba? Yun ang tanong eh. So are we going to be members again of the ICC first?
Remulla said that he was puzzled about what treatment he would give to the ICC resolution, citing that the country had already severed its ties with the criminal court.
I-clarify lang. Kasi kung may balak ba tayong maging miyembro muli ng ICC dahil sa sinasabi ng Kongreso. I want to know how it affects the whole universe of the ICC and the Philippine government as it is right now.
Bersamin refused to give his comments, claiming that the issue of the Philippines rejoining ICC is a foreign policy and a thorough study is needed. Meanwhile, Vice President has urged the House to respect President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s non-cooperation policy. She condemns any insults done by the House to the court and justice system of the country. The Vice President claimed that allowing the ICC investigators violates the Philippine Constitution.
President Tsai Ing-wen has announced that beginning next year, compulsory military service in Taiwan will be extended from 4 months to 1 year.
从明年开始，我们义务役的役期将恢复为1年。那么今天我特地来我们成功岭了解我们疫情调整的准备的概况。
War policy experts believe Taiwan's decision to extend military service is due to China's increasing aggressiveness in the Asia-Pacific region.
面对复杂的国际情势以及地缘政治的改变，为了国家安全，确保我们的民主自由的生活方式不被改变，义务役的役期确实有调整的必要。
President Tsai also inspected new recruits undergoing battle simulation training at an army camp. She said their goal is to ensure that each recruit can help civilians and protect their country. Motor crew leader Chen Chung-lin also stressed the importance of military training, saying new soldiers will feel the pressure of real combat.
我们是模拟战场，在各个枪声的真的震慑感跟爆破的震慑感，让新兵能够在这个测验的过程中体验到战场的压力。
Pakistan's Supreme Court has agreed to hear the bail plea of former Prime Minister Imran Khan in a cipher case. The High Court decision came after another court declared Khan's trial on charges of leaking state secrets illegal. Khan's cipher case pertains to his speech and waiving of a confidential diplomatic letter at a rally after his ouster in a no-confidence vote in Parliament in 2022. The document dubbed as cipher was Khan's basis for the alleged involvement of the United States in his expulsion. Khan's lawyers said no date had been set for the bail hearing. He added that the Supreme Court would seek input from the government on the bail application. North Korea has announced that it would deploy new weapons and stronger armed forces to the border with the South after it successfully launched its spy satellite into orbit. This is after Pyongyang suspended its military agreement with Seoul following the South Korea-led withdrawal from the accord in response to the North satellite launch. Dubbed Malagyeong-1, Pyongyang state media said the satellite will begin its formal reconnaissance mission on December the 1st. It also claimed that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was already reviewing images of United States military bases in Guam hours after the launch. Meanwhile, Seoul is also planning to launch its first spy satellite through SpaceX later this November.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called on Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine by withdrawing his troops from the country. The two leaders raised the issue at a press conference in Berlin for a G20 virtual summit.
Wie bekannt hat der russische Präsident heute zum ersten Mal seit Beginn des Angriffskriegs gegen die Ukraine an einer Videokonferenz der Staats- und Regierungschefs der G20 teilgenommen. Ich habe dazu aufgerufen, dass Präsident Putin seinen Angriff auf die Ukraine beendet und Truppen vom Territorium der Ukraine abzieht, damit dieser Krieg endlich ein Ende findet.
Scholz also said that the G20 video call with Putin was a good opportunity to pressure the Kremlin to end the war in Ukraine. Meloni also stressed that Putin wants to work towards peace, and it could be demonstrated easily by calling out Russian troops out of Kiev.
Circa il fatto che la Russia vorrebbe lavorare sulla pace mi trova contenta, ma penso anche che si possa dimostrare molto facilmente, perché non bisogna dimenticare che in Ucraina c'è un aggressore e un aggredito, e quindi se si volesse pace, perché io non confondo mai la parola pace con la parola invasione, basterebbe banalmente ritirare le proprie truppe dal territorio che si è invaso.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has admitted in front of leaders at the G20 summit that the war in Ukraine is a tragedy. Putin's statement at the virtual meeting was the first time the Kremlin leader has faced and addressed the G20 leaders since he sent Russian troops to Ukraine on February 2022. He asserted that it was important to think about a way to bring the Russia-Ukraine conflict to an end.
Некоторые коллеги уже в своих выступлениях говорили о том, что их потрясает агрессия, продолжающаяся агрессия России на Украине. Да, конечно, военные действия – это всегда трагедия конкретных людей, конкретных семей, да и страны в целом. И, безусловно, мы должны думать о том, как прекратить эту трагедию. Кстати говоря, Россия никогда не отказывалась от мирных переговоров с Украиной.
Putin also raised Kyiv's war against the people in Donbass and compared the loss of civilians to the current war in the Middle East.
Понимаю, что эта война, гибель людей не может не потрясать. а кровавый переворот на Украине в 2014 году, за которым последовала война киевского режима против своего народа на Донбассе, это не потрясает? А истребление гражданского населения в Палестине, в секторе Газа сегодня, не потрясает?
Putin maintained that Russia never refused peace negotiations with Ukraine, insisting that it was Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky who repeatedly denied peace discussions.
Finland's Prime Minister Petteri Orpo says the country will close all but its northernmost border crossing with Russia. This following a surge of migrants, which the capital Helsinki claims Russia is intentionally pushing. Anne-Marie Gonzalez has more.
Since August, around 700 asylum seekers have entered Finland without a visa over its 1,300-kilometer border with Russia. Prime Minister Petteri Orpo says the Finnish government has today decided to close more border posts. Orpo says only the Raja Giuseppe station will remain open. After seeing a surge in migrants seeking asylum on its eastern border in November, Finland last week shut half of its 8 crossings to Russia. Orpo says, however, that unfortunately, these measures have not been able to curb the influx. The government says foreign authorities and other actors have clearly played a role in facilitating the entry of persons crossing the border into Finland. It says the border situation also involves international crime. In October, the Finnish border guard sounded the alarm about a change in Russia's policy. Russia began allowing migrants without proper documentation to cross the border. Orpo accuses that such is a systematic and organized action by the Russian authorities. Border crossings will be closed starting Friday. It will remain closed until December 23rd. Anne-Marie Gonzalez from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The Swiss government has announced it will draft a new law to explicitly ban Hamas activities or support for the Palestinian group within Switzerland.
Et après une discussion riche, approfondie, nous avons décidé de présenter au Parlement un projet de loi qui interdit le Hamas et les organisations qui lui sont proches. L'interdiction est donc une réponse appropriée aux actes terroristes du 7 octobre et aux changements notoires qu'ils ont provoqués concernant la situation sécuritaire, aussi bien au Proche-Orient que dans notre pays.
The Federal Council, the executive branch, stated that crafting a new legislation will provide the authorities with the necessary tools to counter any Hamas activities or support for the organization in Switzerland. Federal Councilor Elizabeth Baum-Schneider said the internal security of Switzerland will also be strengthened. She added that any people who violate the Hamas Ban Act in Switzerland will be punished.
La participation ou le soutien à une organisation terroriste sont punissables en Suisse, mais les obstacles à franchir pour une condamnation sont assez élevés. L'accusation doit, dans chaque cas, apporter la preuve que l'organisation est bien de nature terroriste. La loi sur l'interdiction du Hamas fournira justement cette preuve directement. Les procédures pénales contre des terroristes potentiels en seront facilitées, accélérées.
United States President Joe Biden declared an emergency over lead in water contamination in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Biden's announcement came after tests on the island's water revealed levels more than 100 times the limits set by the Environmental Protection Agency. Authorities say the test results were among the worst marks a U.S. community has seen in decades. Health experts say lead can have devastating effects on childhood development, behavior, and even IQ scores. Local officials advised residents to stop using their taps. A distribution of vouchers for bottled water has also begun. Authorities did detailed testing and a final report on lead levels is expected in mid-December.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the Red Cross will be allowed to visit the remaining hostages in Gaza. This as part of the 4-day truce agreed between Israel and Hamas. Estela Dominique reports.
The 4-day truce will let the Palestinian militants free at least 50 of the people taken hostage in the Hamas October 7 attack. In turn, Israel would release at least 150 Palestinian prisoners and allow more humanitarian aid into the coastal territory after more than 6 weeks of war. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the agreement reached will not include the release of what he calls murderers. He adds, however, that the truce allows for representatives of the Red Cross to visit the captives and deliver medication to them. The Prime Minister warns that the war continues and that Israel will persist until it achieves all its goals, to bring back all the captives, to eliminate Hamas, and to ensure that no entity supporting terror would control Gaza. Netanyahu says he thanked U.S. President Biden for acting at his request with the mediators to achieve a significant improvement in the agreement. Asala Dominique for Matatlang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The United Nations warns that fuel shortages and worsening sanitation in the Gaza Strip are shaping up to be the perfect storm for tragedy through the spread of disease. Kathleen Gao tells us more.
Spokesperson for the UN's children agency UNICEF, James Elder, warns that if children's access to water and sanitation in Gaza continues to be restricted and insufficient, there will be a tragic surge in the number of children dying. With the rain starting to fall in Gaza, Elder says children face a serious threat of mass disease outbreak.
Without enough fuel, we will see the collapse of sanitation services. So we have then, on top of the mortars and the bombs, a perfect storm for the spread of disease. It's a perfect storm for tragedy. We have a desperate lack of water, fecal matter strewn across densely populated settlements, an unacceptable lack of latrines, and severe restraints on hand washing, personal hygiene, and cleaning.
Meanwhile, World Health Organization spokesperson Christian Lindmeier says there are over 72,000 cases of upper respiratory infections in the shelters. 700,000, he says, are sheltering in the UNRWA schools. Other people are crammed together wherever they find shelters. Lindmeier says there are close to 49,000 cases of diarrhea. Over half of these are among children under 5 years old. He says 2 premature babies being cared for at the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza died before they could be evacuated.
They were asked by the hospital staff to facilitate evacuation. That's why WHO, together with the Palestine Red Crescent and the UN colleagues, moved to facilitate that evacuation.
Of the United Nations Children's Agency says the number of children among the casualties in the ongoing war in Gaza is unprecedented. Marjorie Quintos tells us more.
In virtual remarks to the Security Council, UNICEF's Executive Director, Catherine Russell, says that a pause is not enough. She calls for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire and to put a stop to the killings.
Excellencies, for children to survive, for humanitarian workers to stay and effectively deliver, humanitarian pauses are simply not enough. UNICEF is calling for an urgent humanitarian ceasefire to immediately put a stop to this carnage.
Russell mentions reports about more than 1,200 children remaining under the rubble of bombed-out buildings. Children who she says are unaccounted for. She says the number of deaths in the present crisis has far surpassed the total number of deaths during previous escalations. She also fears that Gaza's children are at extreme risk of catastrophic living conditions. She warns that all the children inside the territory are now food insecure, facing what could soon become catastrophic nutrition crisis. Meanwhile, the head of the UN Population Fund, Natalia Kanem, draws attention to the plight of Gaza's pregnant women. Thousands are expected to deliver babies under appalling conditions in the coming month.
Amid the ongoing fighting and devastation, in Gaza, there are currently 5,500 pregnant women expected to give birth in the coming month. Every day, approximately 180 women deliver under appalling conditions, the future for their newborns uncertain. At a moment when new life is beginning, what should be a moment of joy is overshadowed by death and destruction, horror and fear.
Marjorie Quintos for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and the United Kingdom Prime Minister Rishi Sunak signed the Downing Street Accord to elevate bilateral relations to a global strategic partnership. From Europe, Love and Season tells us more.
South Korean Presidents Yoon Suk-yeol and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak signed the Downing Street Accord. The accord was signed after a summit between the two leaders at the Prime Minister's office in London. The agreement has raised the bilateral ties of the two countries to a global strategic partnership from the current broad and creative partnership established in 2013. The accord also elevated the security ties between South Korea and Britain by establishing a strategic cyber partnership to better counter and deter cyber threats. The two countries will also conduct joint patrols to enforce international sanctions against North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. The Downing Street Accord also aims to deepen Seoul and London's partnership on the responsible military use of artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies. President Yoon also announced the start of negotiations to improve the South Korea and United Kingdom Free Trade Agreement.
이러한 양국 간 협력이 더욱 활성화되기 위해서는 자유로운 교역과 투자 환경 조성이 무엇보다 중요합니다. 오늘 한영 양국은 한영 FTA 개선 협상 개시를 선언했습니다. 협상 과정에서 양국 기업인들의 의견을 적극 반영하고 디지털, 공급망, 에너지 등 분야의 새로운 규범도 정립하여 양국 기업들이 마음껏 뛸 수 있는 운동장을 만들고 함께 세계 시장을 선도해 나가도록 할 것입니다.
British Secretary of State for Business and Trade Kemi Badenoch echoed Yoon's announcement, saying upgrading their bilateral free trade agreement reflects the importance of supply chain resilience, digital economy, and energy cooperation.
Today, we celebrate an exciting new chapter as we launch negotiations on a new upgraded trade deal. 2 years ago, when Britain left the EU, we agreed to roll over the existing UK-South Korea free trade agreement. It's a deal that has served us very well. Since it was signed in 2011, bilateral trade has more than doubled, standing at £18 billion last year.
Major business figures, including Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-yong and Hyundai Motor Chief Chung Yoo-sun, joined President Yoon in his 3-day state visit in London. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Sunak lauded the accord, saying it strengthens Britain's friendship with South Korea.
Your state visit underlies the deep partnership and friendship between our two countries, and the signing of the Downing Street Accords today strengthens that friendship.
Love and Season from London, United Kingdom for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Elon Musk's Tesla and India are inches away from finalizing their deal to bring the electric car to New Delhi. Sources familiar with the business deal say Tesla might enter the Indian market in 2024. It is also expected that under this agreement, Tesla would set up a factory in India within 2 years. Other business reports say Tesla and India are considering the states of Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Tamil Nadu as possible locations for the plants. The said states have well-established ecosystems for EV manufacturing and exports. Analysts expect the parties to announce a deal at the vibrant Gujarat Global Summit in January. Up next, a glimpse into the Iglesia Ni Cristo's Care for Humanity in Florida. A car explodes on the Rainbow Bridge after going airborne. And unexplained pneumonia cases are on the rise in northern China. Don't go away, we've got more stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
Iglesia ni Cristo's Care for Humanity has provided help to the residents of Jacksonville in Florida. Casey Humphreys reports.
We were just told that there was some presentation at 5, and we walked over there.
Our principal announced it. They let us know. She let us know, and she told us the whole school to come. And then we kind of saw everybody coming in, and we were all really intrigued to see what was going on and hear more about it.
When I first pulled up and I seen everybody coming out the truck with all these bags here, I was amazed. And I was happy to hear that it was something that was going to be given away or donated to the school and to the surrounding community.
Southside Estates Elementary School, one of many public schools in Duval County, Florida, comprising of over 500 students and staff members. According to statistics, education funding has resulted in a severe lack of school supplies, as well as overall operating cost increases surpassing revenue due to rising inflation costs.
A lot of times parents are working to replenish school supplies, the stress of worrying about getting school supplies for my child.
Especially schools like ours that are lower income and have a lot of needs.
It would be through a Care for Humanity event, an outreach program of the Church of Christ through its charitable partner, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, stepping in to provide aid to the school as selected among this year's recipients as part of a series of humanitarian efforts.
It just started off with the prayers, and I just felt like, oh, this is the place to be. And then we saw all of those bags, and then the check for $15,000 was just, you know, there's no way but God. That was totally God stepping in and helping out our school.
Whoa, that's a huge donation. Wow. And it's amazing that y'all are able to do it. I'm astounded that you all are able to actually present that or give that away to the school.
All I can say is just such a blessing to have this opportunity for the school and for the children.
We decided to help in this holy endeavor to help this school meet the needs of their students, of the teachers, as well as the parents. One of the commandments of God is to help our fellow men. As the charitable partner of the Iglesia ni Cristo, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation has a greater reach throughout the different parts of the world. We were able to help the children here, the students here, the teachers here, aligned with that vision of our beloved executive minister, Brother Eduardo Manalo, in order to help our fellow men.
I've seen plenty of moves of God, but just donation with all of these bags and all of these supplies for the kids is just beyond amazing. That's going to help us to really do a lot for these kids and let them remember this campus of Southside Estates with a really good feeling.
The bags were packaged with care. The program was amazing. It was sincere, it was touching, it touched my heart. I have never seen or experienced this type of gratitude before.
It's always awesome to see programs that want to give back to schools, and we always really just appreciate the support and the help that we can get from programs like yours that feed into not only the kids but the families and the teachers as well.
I would like to thank Brother Eduardo Manalo for this amazing blessing, the difference it's going to make in our teachers and in our students.
Eduardo Manalo, I just really appreciate your vision. And just like I said earlier during the presentation, there were so many schools on the South Side, so many schools in Duval County. But for us to be selected, for Southside Estates to be selected, was a blessing. And I genuinely thank you from the bottom of my heart.
As the charitable partner of the Church of Christ, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation continues to extend its outreach to better provide and serve as a means of hope for those living in impoverished communities seeking a brighter tomorrow. If you want to learn more about the Church of Christ, visit incmedia.org/incnewsworld and subscribe to our YouTube channel at incmedia.official.
From Jacksonville, Florida, Casey Humphreys, Iglesia ni Cristo News Network.
In other news, in Guatemala, at least 6 people are missing after a landslide struck a hillside in the capital Ciudad de Guatemala. Emi Capilita Roja has the details.
6 people, including 2 children, are missing after a landslide hit the Las Calaveras, El Gallito neighborhood in Guatemala City. Coordinator for Disaster Reduction, or CONRED spokesperson, Rodolfo Garcia, says the landslide also left 30 victims and prompted the evacuation of 60 people. 5 homes suffered severe damage. The collapse happened early in the morning. 60% of the 17.11 million inhabitants of Guatemala live in poverty. Thousands of families have been forced to build their houses in flood-prone areas. In September, a river overflowed due to heavy rains, leaving 10 people dead. Emi Capilita Roja for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
U.S. terrorism investigators were deployed Wednesday after a car erupted into a fireball at a U.S.-Canada checkpoint. The blast triggered border closures. It also heightened security on one of the busiest travel days in the American holiday calendar. Irvin Arquisa has more.
I've never seen anything like this. The car just exploded.
2 people were killed in the blast at the checkpoint 640 kilometers northwest of New York City. The car exploded at the major Rainbow Bridge crossing near Niagara Falls. The incident's cause was not immediately clear. The direction the car was crossing, whether into Canada or the US, is still unclear. However, authorities on both sides of the border activated emergency responses. The White House says President Joe Biden has been briefed. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tells Parliament the situation is very serious. Trudeau announces the closure of 4 crossings. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says no detail about the blast points to terrorist involvement.
But at this time, we just need to dial down the temperature right now. And that's what I plan to do as governor, just let everybody know. All is well. We're investigating. More information could arise, but based on the preliminary investigation, no sign of terrorist involvement in the horrific explosion that occurred here in Western New York.
Witnesses described seeing a car traveling at high speed before it crashed into a checkpoint barrier and exploded into flames.
So we were walking up the road and we seen this car coming down towards the border, and he was flying over 100 miles an hour. There was a car in front of him. He swerved out, went in front of the car, hit the fence, went flying up into the air. He hit, I think there was an elevation part. He went up into the air and we just seen the fireball, and that's all we could see. It was just covered in smoke everywhere.
Irvin Arquiza for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Earlier this week, an online medical community forum named ProMed has shed light on a couple of local media reports regarding clusters of undiagnosed pneumonia cases among children in northern China. ProMed is also the same forum that raised questions in the late 2019 about an unknown illness which turned out to be COVID-19. Now, the World Health Organization, or WHO, has asked Beijing for more information regarding a recent spike in pneumonia cases affecting northern China that appears to be mostly affecting children. China has been experiencing an increase in cases of influenza-like illnesses akin to its year-on-year pneumonia reports for the past 3 years when strict measures were enforced as part of its zero-COVID strategy. This landmark policy was then abandoned back in December 2022. It is unclear whether the outbreak in northern China and the overall increase in respiratory infections previously reported by Chinese authorities were linked, but the International Health Organization has called for a more detailed report for more clarification on the matter. The United Nations Health Agency released a statement recently saying the WHO has made an official request for detailed information on an increase in respiratory illnesses and reported clusters of pneumonia cases in China. The WHO noted that China's National Health Commission told a press conference earlier this month that there had been an increase in the incidence of respiratory diseases, attributing them to the lifting of COVID-19 measures and the spread not only of COVID-19, but pathogens such as influenza, myoplasmic pneumonia, and respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV. The World Health Organization and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report that global measles cases in the past year increased, taking the number to 9 million. Deaths also increased to 136,000, mostly among children. Bernadette Ragini has the details.
In a report released by WHO and CDC, in 2022, 33 million children around the world missed a measles dose. 22 million missed their first dose. Half of this number live in just 10 countries, several of which are low-income nations. Another 11 million missed their second dose. With measles, 2 doses are necessary to protect communities from outbreaks. CDC's Global Immunization Division warns that measles cases anywhere pose a risk to all countries and communities where people are under-vaccinated. Urgent, targeted efforts are critical to prevent measles disease and deaths. CDC and WHO urge countries to find and vaccinate all children against measles and other vaccine-preventable diseases. In Virginia Beach, Virginia, Bernadette Regini from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Bangladesh is facing its worst ever dengue outbreak, with hospitals overwhelmed and the death toll rising. The country recently recorded 24 deaths in a single day, the highest daily toll. Dengue, transmitted by mosquitoes, doesn't spread directly between people, but can be transmitted by a mosquito that bites an infected individual. Despite dengue typically subsiding in the region after the monsoon season, the outbreak has persisted in Bangladesh. As of Monday, at least 1,549 people, including 156 children, have died from dengue in Bangladesh this year, with a total of 301 301,255 recorded cases. This year's death toll is about 5 times higher than the previous year's tally of 281 fatalities, marking the highest number in Bangladesh's history. ChatGPT creator OpenAI announces that Sam Altman would return as its chief executive officer. This just days after his shock dismissal plunged the pioneering artificial intelligence firm into crisis. Elise Danielle tells us more.
Sam Altman is back as OpenAI's chief executive officer. It was only 2 days ago when hundreds of staff at the ChatGPT creator office threatened to quit the leading artificial intelligence company. They said that they will be joining CEO Sam Altman if and when he moves to Microsoft. This pronouncement of hundreds of employees deepened a crisis triggered by the shock sacking Altman. Altman was ousted by the board on Friday. He was immediately hired by Microsoft, where he will take the lead in developing a new advanced AI research team. In a streamed interview, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says they want to partner with OpenAI and with Altman irrespective of where he is working. Elise Danielle for Matadna Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Hey. Coming right up, Blackpink receives medals from King Charles III. The gentle blue whales are finally seen back in their natural habitats. And veteran actress Dolly De Leon has a big surprise for her Filipino fans. Catch the latest in sports and entertainment when Mata ng Agila International returns.
The 4 megastar members of K-pop girl group Blackpink received one of Britain's most prestigious honors from King Charles III on Wednesday, recognizing their work as environmental advocates. From Europe, Beverly Madrid reports.
The South Korean sensations were awarded honorary MBEs, or Members of the Order of the British Empire, by the British monarch, which rewards outstanding achievements or services to the community. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and First Lady Kim Gon-hee on a state visit to Britain watch as Roseanne Park, Jennie Kim, Jisoo Kim, and Lalisa Manoban receive the honors at the Buckingham Palace ceremony. The K-pop quartet and South Korea's first couple returned to the palace just hours after attending a lavish state banquet held for Yoon and Kim on Tuesday night. In announcing the MBEs, the palace said Blackpink was honored for its members' work as advocates for the COP26 Climate Summit in 2021. The palace stated that through this role, the band encouraged millions of young people to take part in the UN Global Climate Change Conference held in Glasgow and on the issue of climate action. It also added that the MBEs awarded on the recommendation of the UK government were presented at an investiture in 1844 room at Buckingham Palace. The band, whose 4 members have tens of millions of followers on social media, released a series of videos in 2021 aimed at encouraging young people to learn more about climate change. Organizers say this resulted in significantly greater engagement with the UK-hosted summit from young audiences. Charles is a lifelong environmentalist speaking at COP26 and will be speaking at the opening of the COP28 climate conference in the United Arab Emirates starting next week. Following their COP26 roles, Blackpink, who first emerged from South Korea's popular K-pop scene in 2016, was assigned by UN Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez as ambassadors for the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. This is Beverly Madrid, UK Bureau for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Meanwhile, blue whales are returning to a part of the Indian Ocean where they were once wiped out by whaling activities. Researchers and filmmakers in the Seychelles captured footage of the whales in 2020 and 2021, but further investigation through underwater audio recording revealed that the whales actually spend several months in the region. This suggests that they might be using the area for breeding purposes. The significance of this discovery marks a conservation victory in the face of the devastating impact of commercial whaling. In the 1960s, the Soviet whaling fleet drastically reduced the blue whale population in the region. Today, blue whale numbers remain a fraction of what they once were, and the species is classified as endangered by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. Efforts to protect marine habitats have been implemented, with around 400,000 square kilometers in the Seychelles now designated as protected areas. However, one key concern is the presence of noise pollution, which can be equally detrimental to blue whales, as noise travels efficiently through water and can disrupt their communication and feeding patterns.
Internationally acclaimed actress Dolly De Leon is reportedly super excited about her upcoming collaboration with Hollywood actress Nicole Kidman. First season of 9 Perfect Strangers was released on Hulu in September 2021 and became the most watched original series on streaming platforms. In January of the following year, the filming of the second season of the movie will commence in Germany, lasting 6 months. Also joining the cast are Liv and Murray, with whom De Leon will have more scenes as her character is connected to both.
Lilipat ako sa January, bale, second week of January, tapos doon ko pa lang siya malimit. Hindi ko lang sure masyado kung makaka-bond kami. Kasi mga method actors, di ba medyo yung character sila lagi. Pero I'm excited to meet her. I'm also excited to work with Murray Bartlett, and marami kaming scenes together ni Murray Bartlett. Dahil yung character niya at yung character ko magiging close. So excited akong makatrabaho siya. Tsaka syempre si Liv Ullmann, who is, an Ingrid Bergman actress.
In the country, Dolly's partnership with Creation Studios, which will handle her career locally, has been officially announced. According to director Alagao-Flores, they are excited about the project the actress can undertake in 2024. Meanwhile, the film Iti Mapupukaw, Dolly De Leon's first animated film with Carlo Aquino, is selected as the country's official entry to the Oscars. The 96 Academy Awards will take place on the 10th of March 2024 at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles.
It's really exciting. It's super, I'm so thrilled. I'm so happy that this is happening. And I don't feel like it's happening just to me. I feel like it's happening to all of us. Kasi parang ito rin yung chance natin to be, in the world stage.
Well, the best of luck to you, Miss Dolly De Leon. And to send you off tonight, here's a quote from the father of Apple, Steve Jobs. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle, as with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it.
And this reminds me, Nins, of this famous saying that find a job that you like and you'll never have to work a day in your life.
That is so true. And lucky for those who find it sooner than later.
Yes.
Because that means for longer they will get to enjoy life.
Exactly. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Ricky Mathay.
I am Nina Richie Alagao-Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing